Jessica Kobasi here. Today I'm going to be going over a really cool effect, and this is kind of like a lens flare, like a colorful lens flare effect that I love to add in my pictures. It just makes them so much more colorful and alive. Um, let's go ahead and I'm going to show you guys the original picture. So this is the original, and again, this just makes the picture look a lot cooler in my opinion, and who doesn't want to be cool, right? I try. Anyways, so here's it with and here's it without. So let's first take a look at all my little layers in here because I have quite a few. Oh, don't let this intimidate you, really. I make layers like no other. So let's go down the line. I have hue saturation, curves, all this other stuff. But let's really look at it without all that fancy stuff, all the extra adjustment layers. These are literally just colored layers. I use a lot of layer settings like screen overlay, and I have one set to normal. So now that you have kind of like an idea of how I do this, I'm going to show you guys how I did it. So first let's start by making our first layer by just going to this icon or pressing Command Shift N. Take out your brush tool and make sure it's at the 0% hardness, and the size can be anything right now. I'm going to choose the size to be about 400. Again, opacity is at 11%. And we're going to start, I usually start with white first. Now I start with the base and I make sure that it is in kind of the center of the picture, but you can always move this later. And let's start around 44% actually. Just go ahead, and if this was a lens flare, I would kind of go like that. Like this. And I use my tablet, and I can't stress how important it is to be using a tablet because it's so much more fluid than using your touchpad. If you prefer to use your touchpad, that's fine. You're a warrior. I commend you for your efforts because I can't do that. I'll go crazy. Made the white one. Simple. We're going to go ahead and make another layer. And now you get to choose whatever color you want. I'm going to go ahead. I usually come out with an orange just because I just like that color. Going over this. Again, just a simple streak, nothing fancy. I'm going to go ahead and set this to screen. And now you can kind of see the white is allowing the orange to stick a little, as you can see. Go ahead and I added a little bit more orange, and again, opacity is still at 44%. I'm going to make another layer, and I'm going to make the brush a little smaller. I'm going to keep the orange, I'm going to just make it a little darker. And I'm going to set this layer to overlay. And I'm going to just go ahead and again lightly go over. You can erase some areas if you need to. But again, starting out the white base and then screen and then adding an overlay. And now I'm going to go ahead and use a purple color. And again, make a new layer. And you might ask why you have to make so many layers, because each one is going to have a different layer setting. And you can just control them better that way. So this layer is set to screen, the purple layer. Just going to lightly go over it near her face area. I'm going to be doing a lot of undoing here to get this right. It usually takes me a couple of tries. And you can take that eraser brush at any time. I'm just going to go ahead and delete some areas that I don't want. Something like that. Lowering the opacity on that. And then I'm going to make a same layer but set it to overlay. Okay, and I'm just going to go over this color. Set to overlay. I'm just going to delete some extra areas. And I want to make sure that I get this outer part too. So you can lightly add some over there. And then now I'm actually going to put it to 11% and use a yellow shade and lightly go over it. Opacity is at 11% again. And you can start out with it no layer setting, and then you can just change it to see how it looks. I'm setting mine to overlay. It really works nicely when you add yellow to overlay. It really makes all the colors stick together. And you can lower the opacity if you need to, making yet another layer. And this time I'm setting it to screen. And I'm going to change the opacity up a little just to add a little more drama to the lens flare. And I'm just going to take an eraser. I don't want it to go over this area too much, so I'm just erasing those little bits. And I'm making another new layer, and for the last one I'm gonna use a redder color, set to overlay, and at 22%. Go over this area here, and something like that. You can add some to the outer parts of the picture. If I were to do this, I would use a screen layer mode, and softly go over the outsides with yellow, most likely. Just lightly go over that. And I would go over it at a really low opacity, somewhere around like 20, like 11. And that's really all there is to it. If you really wanted to go that extra step, you could always add curves layers and other layers to kind of put it all together. So I'm just using the curves layer, making it somewhat simple. And then usually I would go to selective color and then bring down all the whites. Just go to the whites and bring down some whites. And then bring down the opacity of that because I don't want it too crazy. Something like that. Very subtle. I usually would just bring down all the whites. And something like that. So let me show you guys the before and after. This is before and this is after. Before and after. And you can even take this whole group, press Command T, and move it around if you'd like to. You can add it anywhere you want. You don't have to add it only to that area. Sometimes I will move it around, sometimes I won't. But it's just based on your preference. Hopefully you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any requests, please feel free to comment, send me an email. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you had fun with this one.